Hello and welcome to another installment of Virtual Face-to-Face. First of all, excuse us for the slight delay. We were having some technological difficulties, but we are now all ready to go. Today we will be talking about the luxury in digital transformation, revamping business with e-commerce. And it is my pleasure to introduce Louis-Felix Communeau, who is an entrepreneur, speaker, and an expert in the luxury brand industry. Thank you for joining us. I hope you can hear us and see us properly.
That's okay. It does work now, yes. Thank you for these invitations, and good evening, everybody.
So, tell us a little bit, first of all, about you, sort of your experiences within the luxury sector, and your part as both consultant and also, in a way, educator in this field.
Yes, exactly. We're always linking between the education part and the consultancy part. It's always going together, especially in the luxury sector. I do have 10 years more experience into the luxury. I started my career with LVMH, press office before moving to the retail operational side, moved with Richemont Group, with Montblanc, and before setting up my own business, my own boutique agency, to be able to better understand the needs of clients, which I knew already on a way, but not totally as well with the B2B. So I trained myself, and I wanted to develop something that will offer clients a better understanding of the market, a bit precursor as well with the client relations for SME in luxury and premium brands and companies. So yes, this is what I've developed over the years now, and my idea that I'm convinced is today something quite interesting and important. It's to be able to deliver the best service to final clients in B2B and B2C through retail experience and client experience.
Right. So in that vein, we are looking now at, especially during this period in this pandemic, we've looked at a huge shift into everything that is e-commerce, everything that is online purchasing, and we've seen a huge uptick in certain brands work a lot more maybe than others. Now, what was in the luxury field, what kind of effect, what has this generated in terms of what was the situation prior to the pandemic when it came to the luxury sector's relationship with e-commerce?
Well, we have first to come back to figures, first to understand how the market is made. So you have 80% of the business that it's made through big names, big brands, luxury, premium brands. And the rest, it's small brands that still delivered amazing services, but represent a certain amount of companies, way bigger than what we have right now in terms of big names. But still, it's just 20 to 30% in some cases of the industry revenue today. What we had before COVID was clearly a rise into the figures in terms of clients. Not only into retail, classic retail, so what we call offlines, but also on online. So the online part was growing prior to COVID-19's pandemic, but still the growth wasn't that much. It was a quite stable growth year after year, with an better understanding of the market and the needs of clients for this sector in terms of online delivery. However, we knew already that the Asian market was the leader in terms of online expansion in retail, but we didn't know exactly how things were going to go, except that brands will introduce concepts throughout years to get more into AI, and so artificial intelligence, but also in terms of let's say digital marketing with a better approach and with some upgrades year after year. However, the pandemic changed everything, all the approach we had with online businesses and online options for traditional retail companies. What it changed is that we had to adapt, as you know, straight away to survive, meaning that a company that didn't do anything at the beginning could have died. Even though some countries, such as France, has put in place some help to make sure that those companies can sustain whatever the situations, and that employees lose further salaries, but also their positions. We know that luxury is mostly like HQ for luxuries, and as well in terms of creations come from Europe mostly. So Europe has been quite good on this, our European territory, whatever the countries, EU or other countries in Europe, been quite good in terms of delivering, like accompany the brands and as well the factories to make sure that this situation doesn't go into a catastrophe. However, what we didn't know what will happen is client side, what the clients and how the clients will react to this closure. What is surprising is to see the figures, like sales dropped in a way, but rose in another one, thanks to online retailers. During the first wave, for most of the country that are having their third wave today, so the first wave, most of the shops have been closed. Reorganization of shifts and teams didn't go well. We were learning. We didn't know where we were going. Everybody was in the unknown. Right after summer and the better understanding of what's a pandemic, because it was the first time, and what we can do, was actually to put in place the action plan that was decided before summer for all the brands and all the shops. And at that point, we saw brands like Hermès that been to place in France 2/3 of the team of the staff into temporary unemployment, to use the 2/3 of the staff during the second wave to be used into, let's say, clienteling. So they were actually put into the call centers, call clients, push them to go online, and also push them to buy and to understand the new collections without coming to the stores. And that's something totally new. If a brand like Hermès could have performed, and we're talking of a 100-years-old company, could have performed during a pandemic like this, that means the companies were actually putting in place some strategies, understandings, and trying to survive these situations and offering services to the client that continue buying, even if it was less on some categories, because there is some products that you don't buy distance, that you need to go on site to try them, or at least for the price you pay to understand your investment. But still, the industry totally understood how to get other ways, other options of selling and maximize revenue per consumers.
And you think that, I mean, as you said, this was a plan that was sort of put into place and maybe accelerated during the pandemic, but this is, you think the way that it's going to keep going, it's always going to keep going more in the direction of pure online or e-commerce in that direction? Or do you think it's going to, at some point, you know, as you said, there is a limit as to, there is an experience that one usually expects out of sort of luxury, the luxury sector, be it luxury brands such as Hermès or luxury fashion. Is there going to be sort of when we kind of get back to whatever normal might be, is there going to be kind of a rebalancing between the online presence and also the physical presence of the stores? Is there going to be slightly scaling back of that, or are we going to be moving more and more into the online?
We have all our point of view on that, but I think from what we saw before the pandemic is that we were thinking that the future was into e-commerce only. I think this is alert. Like, clearly we have to understand how the population is evolving, and how whatever the categories of products you're buying, people are willing to buy. We will always do online buyings for things that we understand, that we are comfortable to buy online without trying the products, or even like selling it back if the product is not fitting us or our expectations. However, we need the socializations. We need to meet people. We need to try products, to get advice, because this is how human is. Like most of the human of us, we need this socialization. It's important. So we are not today just talking about economics and the way things will grow in terms of business, but I think we have to understand as well the difficulties we have been through in terms of human being during this pandemic. And what it shows, and especially in between the two waves and last summer, people were running out to meet, running out to go to restaurants, running out to get on vacations, meet other people, and running out to go to stores. Even during the pandemics and during those lockdowns that happened, people were going to the supermarket when the rest of the store were closed, because even if it was not totally safe, it was as well a possibility to get out of our own homes. And I think this is one of the part that is really important, is that traditional retail costs money because there is cost of operational. But online business costs money also, because whenever you don't see the staff that are working in the back office for online stores, there are still a lot of people that are operating to be able to have an operational website, e-shop, and as well digital marketing strategy. So it's totally wrong to think that traditional business, traditional retail do not have a future. I think and I'm convinced at the same time that the future is into hybrid solutions, so online and offline, even hybrid solution, as we call phygital, so for physical store and digital solutions, phygital solutions inside stores. So whenever a product is not available, to be able to order it online through a store tablet. And I think this is really what we will have two options. And already China is showing this. China totally recovered of the pandemic. They are back to normal business and figures from before pandemic, and sometimes better than before the pandemic. So they are acting in two ways. On retail, they are back to normal, but as well, the pandemic helped them to increase, for all the brands, to increase their digital prints, to be able to develop their tools in terms of digitalizations, and to offer more options through global platforms such as Alibaba or other partnership that has been made. And I think this is where we're going for the rest of the world. We're going to follow, with some delay, China.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask, in fact, if you think that this is sort of the trend that everyone else in the world is going to be following, taking China's lead. Do you think that there's also, in terms of the luxury sector, do you think there's been, with this focus on, well, this forced almost focus on this sort of hybrid solution, do you feel that during the pandemic, maybe certain luxury brands had found that not necessarily their demographic changed, but they maintained their core clients, so they actually saw that their clientele was changing, was somehow modified, or it was the same sorts of people that were maybe before would going in stores and now they were buying online? Or had that shifted during the pandemic because of a lot more maybe presence online?
I would say that there is two change that happens, is that you have, and I will finish by the younger generations, but I will start by the eldest generations that are the main clients for brands, especially in Europe and North America.
Yeah.
There is a shift that has been made by the brands, not in a will to make this change this way, but in a way that they didn't have the choice to put in place first the click and collect, the distance sales, meaning that you have someone calling you and offering you the possibility to send you a catalog at home through postal or through PDF. So that's the first step for the brands. It's to connect to the VIC, so very important customers, for some of them that are not into digital or very few. And first, to bring them to continue buying. That has been the most complicated. Some brands and some sales ambassadors would tell you, like, yes, but the clients were telling us, I'm staying home, so why do you want me to buy a new collection dress while I will be in my garden or my balcony? What's the point? And it's a reality. You're not going to buy a handbag in the middle of the pandemic at 2, 3, 4, 10,000 euros, and wearing for what? To stay home and going from the room to the living room? Ridiculous. So the first thing that happened is the, let's say, the depression. So I don't buy because I don't need it. I'm staying in my place. So I am not going to buy. So I'm not going to respond positively to the offer made by my, let's say, relationship manager or sales ambassador, like regular sales ambassador. That was the first move. Then there is the upgrade onto the website, and to bring customer by calling them. Again, phoning has been the key of the pandemic in luxury. Keeping a track on clients, using WhatsApp, using messages, sending postcards, and as well calling them. So phoning has been really the new thing for staff. And that is when the point move to the e-shop, is when they push the clients, whatever the age, to go on the website, to ask question by phone if any question were requested, and to finalize their order online through the website, not through a catalog and calling a sales ambassador. And I think this is the transition even for the older generation to be able to continue to buy, and that brought as well a trust into website and making to finalize a payment online. That has been the key for the brand, is that they made their clients understand that you can go online, you can buy online, you will find quite the same collection, 80, 90%, and it's safe. That's, I think, one of the key. It's to say it's safe to buy online. And this is where we are starting to move and shift for all generation to online buyings, especially with the mask situation. If we go into mainstream, people that were not used to go onto Amazon ended up to go on Amazon because they needed mask. So where do you buy your mask if you don't want to move to a pharmacy, because the pharmacy is seen as a medical place and so unsafe, risk of COVID? So it's Amazon or equivalent. So all the generations started to understand that, yes, online is safe, and maybe I can find some stuff online that I didn't think of, especially luxury products, into accessories, or even if it's a small details, but people started to buy online. That's the thing where it changed. And for the younger generations, first, maybe a figure that could be interesting for everybody listening here. But for the generation Z, so Z, it's a generation in between 15 and 24, while we say millennials, it's in between 19, but the reality is is more around 20 to 34. So the Gen Z in China are average buying in luxury 7,000 euros monthly. This is the average spend for this generation in China. So they are used to the e-shop, while in Europe, we absolutely don't have the same figures, of course, except for very few people. But still, like this generation in Europe was mostly buying offline for luxury products, while in China and, let's say, globally Asia, people already trusted e-commerce in the 15 to 24 generations for luxury products. So I think the shift, and this is where it's important to understand, is that Europe and North America moved to a trusty buying, shopping experience online, whatever the generation is, and understand that, yes, online is not the only solution in terms of buying, but it's one of the solutions when I want to pursue my shopping experience without being able to go offline, so to a physical store.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting how you said that they almost created it like a sort of tailor. They created kind of that new. You get that experience when you go into a physical shop of being catered to, your needs are being met, and the fact that they are kind of almost ensuring that this experience is continued, even if it's through phone calls, messages, trying to make sure that that there's still a level of the established luxury brands are still pursuing that level of, in a way, excellence, despite not being physically in a shop, which I thought was, I thought it was interesting how, you said there's this shift towards the calls and sending messages and trying to also lure people to purchase online and sort of be assured that this is, as you said, safe.
Yes. Well, it's as well the fact that we don't have this mentality in Europe or North America to do everything online, even on a smartphone, even on WhatsApp. While in Asia, with WeChat, you do everything. You pay, you communicate, you shop. We don't have this yet. So I think we're getting to this point where we could have in the future few platform where we mix everything together and we will be able to pay as well, which will facilitate, in fact, the development of e-shop in Europe. But I don't think at the moment, with the security we have, like the protection of individuals with IT and internet in global, I don't think this is something that we will have easily in Europe at the moment, while in Asia it's totally different. Like there is a deregulation in terms of IT, the protection of consumer through apps is totally different as well. So I guess we have various approach, but still, again, when we speak about luxury brands, luxury industry, we have to understand that we don't speak only about retail. We're talking as well about travel retail, which represents 10 to 20% of total retail sales worldwide. We are calling it the fifth continent, travel retail. So in travel retail, you have in-flights. So what we find in retail offer on board planes, and this is a very good tendency that we can see through this, is that most of the airlines are removing, and this was coming before the pandemic, their in-flight offer of duty-free on board planes. First, because it's waiting a lot, and they are in direct competitions with airports, and they can't compete with airports and duty-free and travel retail globally in airports. So they were removing it, but replacing it by a online shopping experience on specific websites. So which I think it's quite interesting, because this shows as well that in retail, you have globally some offers that are disappearing because of a situation that is not a pandemic, but just it's a digitalization of the world. So that's the first thing. When we're talking about luxury, we have to understand that luxury comes with tourism, F&B, so food and beverage, hospitality globally with hotels. And hotels are digitalizing their offer and trying to put options as well in rooms, etc., that will push people to buy more easily, accessories, room service, spa services through an app as well, press. All this is not new things in the industry, but it is pushed to extreme since the arrival of the pandemic. So all the market is impacted today by the transformation, digital transformation. Some businesses were holding it, thinking that they could wait and make it happen slowly. The pandemic has just accelerated the situation that we had before. One important quote that I can have is Patrick Chaloub, which is the CEO of Chaloub Group in the Middle East. So partnering, like the joint venture made with LVMH and other brands here in the region in the Middle East. He said before the pandemic, a few years ago, that the future will be into digital stores. And last year, he said exactly the contrary. He said, like, the digitalization is one option, but the cost of operation of digital e-shop will still make profitable our shop, even with all the charges that we have in terms of staff and all. So that means that the two options are valuable, that the two options are their positive aspects and negativity as well. And I think we're going into a society where slowly and slowly we'll get more into digitalizations, but we will never forget our needs of offline as well, whatever the generation and whatever the businesses.
Right. Well, at the heart, as you said, we are like social creatures. We need to physically be in places. We cannot just be in front of screens, or at least there can't be this complete detachment from what it is that we are purchasing. You touched upon the fact that China is so far ahead, and because there's fewer sort of regulations in place that Europe and the States are more saddled with. With that in mind, you said that they're slowly catching up, but what would have to change in terms of regulations and things like that? And how long do you think it'll take for Europe and the States to sort of catch up to where China is?
For the US, for North America globally, it won't be complicated because they are more into tech than what we are here in Europe. We always say that Europeans are into transformations. Yes, we are, but as well we are good. We are good folks of complaints. We need our safety. We need our own territory. We don't like to be disturbed by some rules that might make us think that we are going to be under control by governments, by entities and private businesses as well. So I think Europe will have and needs more times to accept globally this transformation and the understanding that yes, there is some control that are put in place, but that's for our safety first. And yes, we have to make sure that our data are not sold to anyone with a risk to see our own private life shown in public in any reason. So yes, definitely this is something that today I think this is our very strong aspect of digitalization in Europe, is that we put first the consumer before putting the interest of a nation or putting the interest of a private business in terms of collecting data. So this is important. So I guess we will be the last one in the three regions to be fully operational on this, but always with a mindset of the respect of our private life first.
I mean, yeah, I'm supposing at a certain point it's also going to be that the pressures from, in a way, the way that the rest of the world is going are also going to impact on how Europe does react to potentially kind of being left behind from this point of view. I think we are creatures of there is always a healthy dose of skepticism. I think there's also a dose of I don't necessarily know if it's like fear of what's new, but sometimes I wonder if it also depends on sort of the kind of populations that we have in terms of the different generations. How, China is an incredibly populous nation, and it's full of, there are a lot of the Gen Z, the younger demographic that impacts a lot on the industry in general. And I think maybe, in certain countries in Europe, looking at places around like the Mediterranean as well, there's it's an aging population, so you tend to have this reticence maybe to go down the technological, or like to go down the e-commerce route completely, or it's stuck in their ways a little bit more. Could that be also part of the reason why there's this more heavily regulated approach in Europe?
It's one of the reasons, but as well is because we have a business model in terms of retail globally that tends to protect as well small SMEs, in terms of retail stores, concept stores, department stores, etc. We don't have the mall culture like in the US, like in China, like in Asia globally, but as well like Middle East. We have aging populations more than other regions, and depending, of course, of the countries in Europe and globally. But we tend to have less youth than right now the generation of the baby boom that are going into retirement as well. And those ones, we always put them and say that they are not into digitalizations. I think we're wrong, because most of them are adapting to the digital tools faster sometimes than youngest generations. So we have to consider that they are willing as well to learn and to understand better how to use digital tools in terms of e-shop, but as well in terms of buying any services. So it's not just a question of luxury today. But yes, of course, if you go in territories such as I'm splitting half of my time in between Dubai and Paris. And here right now in Dubai, I have to say that yes, we have a younger generation. We have as well leaders that are pushing into the digitalization used of artificial intelligence, and also into using all devices possible to make this country one of the first in terms of digitalization of the country. So it will all depend always of the country where you're settled, on the average age of the population, as well into the laws that are impacted due to some country that, like us, UK, France, etc. We are centuries country. Well, Singapore or Dubai, Dubai, we always say Dubai, but United Arab Emirates are a younger country, less than 60 years old. So yes, definitely the laws are less impacted by the laws that we have in Europe at the moment. So we can do more things and adapt regarding the new usage of tools and digital tools in this case. But in terms of luxury, I think that we will remain, at least in retail, will remain conventional for something easy. If tomorrow you're going to a brand to buy a bag that costs 5,000 euros, it's called an investment. And for an investment, you don't buy it online. This is something that people think that will change. It's impossible. You don't buy a car online. You need to try it. You need to feel it. You don't buy a jewels online. You need to see it. And if you're a bit aware of the watches and jewelry industry, you will try it. You will come back maybe 2 to 3 times before making this investment. And whatever the price of this investment, 1 to 2,000 euros to millions euros, but you invest in something, so you come and try it. Online is good for reviews. Online is good for buying accessories or cross-selling. But still, we will come into stores, and luxury will always have this little particularity of bringing people offline to finalize buyings, to understand and touching products, and to make a decision in terms of investment.
I mean, as you said, it is, as you said, an investment, and people, it's not just because it's online that people are more or less willing to part with as much money as some of these especially luxury items are cost.
Yep.
So I've received a couple of questions here. I forgot to mention at the beginning of our session that we invite any questions that there might be from who's watching us. I have a question from Raj Patel, which is, what is a key or the best example of technology that enhances experience of luxury products?
AI, so artificial intelligence, is for me one of the best tools that we have today. You can do many things with it. First, on the back office side, AI will help you with algorithm to create data, like to classify, to organize datas, and to better understand your customer. That's tools that are used through software today, through software like Salesforce, etc. You will definitely have a need when you're working for a brand of those tools to understand your customer. Also, on the back office side, in terms of digital marketing, to target better your consumer, understand them better, you will use algorithm. So you will go use artificial intelligence to help you target better your consumer and prospects. So that's important through target advertisements, through search engine optimizations, etc. All this will help you to understand your consumer. And for the client side, the AI will be here to finally help you finding the right products to your right regularity with the brands, to your regularity with the brands, with classifying your shopping's previous shopping experience. And as well, like we have today with Netflix, for instance, when you get a membership with Netflix, with Spotify, with Apple Music, etc., you get to respond to some questions like, what are the trends? For instance, what do you like in movies? What do you like in music? And then the AI will do, and the algorithm will classify the things and bring you and offer you the best options to fit your expectations. This is exactly what AI today is bringing to the luxury segment for the back office, but also for the client side.
Right. So it's I think even more so in probably in the luxury sector. I'm wondering if, compared to the luxury sector, the you mentioned earlier on the shops, the need that we're never going to lose like the physical stores, but when you look down at high streets when shops are closing but we're looking at shops maybe that are not in that luxury center, in that luxury sector, excuse me. Do you think that part of the reason why the luxury sector will always have that hands-on, like that physical component to it, is because purely out of the fact that what they are buying is an investment, as opposed to it being, looking at retail and fashion, something quite dispensable and dispendable that you don't have to necessarily touch and feel before you purchase it?
Not only. The second thing is the client experience. When you buy luxury, you buy a package. You don't buy the product. You buy the advice. You buy the client experience on site. You buy this experiential marketing that is offered by the brands. You buy the storytelling, and you buy the packaging. You buy also the shopping bags, and you buy also a future after sales service. You're buying all this when you buy on site with a luxury brand. And the problem of the e-commerce is that it's bringing you all this, but in a different way. And this different way is not offering you one thing, the client recognition on site. And people that are buying luxury today, anyone buying luxury and saying, I don't go for the client experience, I don't go for the service, and I don't go to be recognized at a certain point, is lying, clearly lying. We buy luxury. We buy we just don't buy. We buy the entries to the entrance to a club. Clearly,
a club, a lifestyle, a world.
Yeah,
and that is something that you cannot. I mean, you can't get if you're only buying things online without physically going in and living the experience, which I find it's I think it's an interesting juggling act, because a lot of these, especially more established luxury brands and in the different industries, I suppose, because a lot of them, especially like the European luxury brands, they tend to focus on their history, their tradition, what they've built, as like their name represents a certain standard, a certain level of expectations. I wonder how difficult it might have been for some brands to accept that digital was going to become such a part of their business, their core business, their company. Was there a lot of resistance? I mean, you said that there were things in place that were already the pandemic sped things up, but that there was already a look at digitalization and e-commerce before the pandemic. But did some companies, did some sectors think that it's not as urgent to do this, and we can just live off kind of our name without, having to invest too much in e-commerce purely?
Everybody is totally aware that today is the key to success.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the one that didn't know that before pandemic, it wasn't the brand. It was multi-brand stores, concept stores,
Right.
that didn't pay attention that if tomorrow we have a problem, what happens without having a database? Because most of the multi-brand stores don't have database. They know their clients, their regular clients in some cities, but they don't need to have this database tool. But in reality, yes, we need database tool. We need a track on our clients, and we need to offer a various experience to remain competitive on a ultra competitive market today, which is retail. Whatever the categories of products, mainstream, premium, or luxury. And you have concept stores and multi-brand stores in each categories. The problem is that most of the stores that are not linked to a brand and not managed by a brand or by a franchisee didn't have those tools, and they are the ones who have been suffering. And they are the ones today putting in place strategies, creating e-shops, but also creating a database tool. Even if it's an Excel, because they don't have the budget to
Mm-hmm.
invest into a proper database tool, they will still do it this way. And I think this is where everybody is learning. The only industry in not only in luxury, I'm a bit dubitative if it would be put in place or not, is restaurants. Those who are restaurants and bars which are suffering in any kind of categories of budget, they are all suffering of this situation. But I don't know if even with a pandemic, they will put in place this kind of action. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
Even in luxury, even in luxury. For Michelin restaurants and all these that don't have, because there is a lot that don't have CRM tools, I don't know if they will put it in place.
Why do you, I mean, it's interesting talking about restaurants. It's one of those things that you can't really, I mean, yes, you can get things delivered home and but so much of the experience really is
on site.
On site. It's not like a side thing, an add-on. It's part of what you are actually paying for. In fact, there are cases of a lot of these restaurants and a lot of the restaurant industry that is, a lot of restaurants have shut down, and they say you can open up just for takeaway, but of course people expect that same kind of quality of food, maybe at a fraction of the price, because most of the experience and the price that you're paying for certain types of restaurants is in the physical experience of being in that space. How can they effectively apply these new tools, using the new tools, I guess, that e-commerce could how is that applicable to the restaurant industry? I don't know.
No, it's really difficult, because once they will reopen, if they want to continue with the delivery, so through Uber Eats or Deliveroo or whatever, because this is what they are doing for some of them today. I mean, in the high budget restaurants, also luxury, premium and luxury restaurants, but it's quite impossible, because then you need a full team dedicated to the delivery service. And for those restaurants, I don't know if they will continue. But one part that was already developed before the lockdown and since few years was the let's say the offer of products links to the restaurant branding. So, for instance, in a Michelin restaurant, you could find like a small épicerie where to buy some like a kind of luxury market, very small, but where you could buy some products associated to the restaurant experience. And that's the only thing that can be sold online today. But if the restaurants wants to continue to have an online experience, it will always go through the platform, because people are going through platform and won't go into one e-shop for each restaurant. This is impossible.
I think it's a little bit like the question of, I mean, it's not exactly the same in that Amazon obviously offers everything under the sun, basically. But when it comes to restaurants, and people tend to be, you've got Deliveroo, Uber Eats, you've got certain platforms that cater to a certain, I guess, level of restaurant. But would it take maybe creating something like an Uber Eats or a Deliveroo just for the Michelin-starred restaurants? Or
Let's give that to some students to open their own startup on this. It could be
yeah,
good.
I mean, because I think a lot of it, I feel like, Deliveroo and these apps, these platforms were created prior to the pandemic, but they definitely answered a need, or filled a gap where there was one, especially in certain cities, because then not every city has the same
Yes, exactly.
same things. I mean, in a New York or a London, where people are used to ordering things and having all sorts of different kinds of cuisine, and maybe not cooking as much at home, it's something that is very normal. But during the pandemic, Deliveroo and Just Eat and all of these platforms saw skyrocketing, started skyrocketing in all these cities that before weren't even aware they existed. It was just sort of like a little like, oh yes, this thing exists, but it's not prevalent. I wonder if they've kind of got a market on covered the market of the I'd say that the mid-level, the mid-range of restaurants. It would be maybe the only alternative to create something that is just for the higher end. But I guess that would require the experience too.
The problem in all this is that, yes, I agree with you. On the mainstream F&B sector, we saw the expansion of those platforms worldwide, like not only in capital cities like previously made, but in even like secondary cities, which is amazing, because that means that finally we're bringing the service and these digitalizations of products even in smaller cities. However, that luxury segment is like very condensed into like capital cities or big cities. Otherwise, then you have all those Michelin star restaurants all over across the globe, especially in Europe and France as well, UK, where you can find them outside of cities, in mountains, in remote places, countryside and all. So here, unfortunately, it would be complicated to go and take away the products on Deliveroo to bring them to another city.
Yeah, of course.
That counts of the limit of the model. However, for the luxury sector, and back to retail now, we always forget that without digitalizations, without distance sell, many people won't be able to buy the brands, instead of taking a train or plane, a car, to make hours of travel to find those luxury brands in capital cities or big cities. And I think these digitalizations today is bringing as well globally, whatever the categories of products, bringing to a network of cities those products, because the brands are upgrading today and the companies globally upgrading their offer online, and that is fitting perfectly for people living outside present cities of those brands, restaurants, etc., to be able to buy the products and to be delivered home wherever you are in the world.
So you're saying it's widening their scope, their reach,
This is the first quality of this digitalization, is that today we're bringing brands, products, and companies on all territories thanks to eShop, and upgraded eShop thanks to pandemic.
the upside to this incredibly difficult period. I mean, it gives even more meaning to the term globalization, a truly global network
Yep.
of luxury and, well, generally of commerce and the way that we reach and our products reach different places throughout the world. So, what would you say though about classic word of mouth that used to happen before, obviously, and there are always those businesses that say we want to remain like this niche that people sort of discover through, I don't know, like the more traditional means. Do you think that in the future, without e-commerce at all, a business is destined to fail?
Depends what we're doing. It's
Okay.
always the same, depending on the market.
So if you decide that you want to remain restricted to your area, you reply to the demands of your.
If you're regional, you don't need to be online. Well, you don't need. Yes, it's better to have a presence, even if it's just a portfolio. But I don't think today most of the company are looking to stay just on one territory. Most of the people wants to expand at a point. This is the aim of business as well. It will take years from some business, but months for other. However, I will say that we need both options. It's an hybrid. Any company that is setting up today, it's hybrid situation. It's hybrid offers, and they are all doing the same. Word of mouth still exists. Word of mouth is called TripAdvisor on the hospitality side. Uber reviews on the food and beverage one. It's called as well Google search and Google forum from all the retail and brands offers, and it's mostly call as well Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, Twitter, and all those social media. I think today we're just having a complete different approach from years ago. Of course, revolution is always bringing new options, and here is a digital revolution. So we are acting differently. We are shopping differently. We are as well more conscious and more live on all topics straight away. So there is no secrets like in the past where we needed to receive the magazines, where we needed to receive the newspaper. Today, we have access to all informations. The only difficulty today for this digitalization in luxury industry is to make sure that you don't have bad buzz because of bad comments made by clients. That's the first difficulty for brands, because today clients, when they're not happy, they go online and they criticize immediately, and that can cost millions for brands. And the second issue for the brands, it's to be able to remain authentic, meaning that today it's the difficulty as well of the stores, and this is why many brands are coming back to these options in luxury that they had by the past, where you found, like for instance, resort collection in certain resort destinations, cruise collection in certain stores, and some couture collection in certain points of sales. Well, we are back to that. Why? Because too much uniformization kills the business as well. Like there is a cannibalization. For instance, you are a British client and you're used to travel. The bag that you used to buy in, or the collection that you're used to buy in London for brand X, if this brand is available in New York, in Paris, in Tokyo, in Maldives resorts, in St. Bart's, because this is what happened in luxury, you will continue to buy from those destinations. So you are going to buy less from one point of sales. So your point of sales is going to lose you in a way, and other ones will gain. Even though it's still the brands making profits, there is a problem for each point of sales. And I think this is where today the brands have to really careful. They have to be able to offer various options worldwide, because we are bored, all generation, of one option. We need many options, and we need fast changes as well. And I think this is where the brands have, and especially in luxury, they have one asset, is to be able to offer various options in the various stores and e-shop available worldwide.
And maintain, as you said, their authenticity
Yeah.
in doing all of that. I mean, it seems like it's been accelerated by COVID, but it's still, in a sense, a work in progress, because there's still much to be done and a lot to be taken into consideration. I have a very quick question. When you said, negative comments can, cost millions, or, how do they control? Like, the thing is, people are a lot, we see that people are a lot faster to comment and be really scathing in their comments and reviews online, maybe because it's easier if you're not doing it face to face. How do brands try to manage that kind of bad publicity? Like, you can't manage the bad publicity, but it's a lot easier, I think, now to find someone who will write a bad review because maybe like the most minor detail, and it might not even be the fault of the brand itself. It might be because it arrived late or something happened. How do they manage that? How can you try and contain the damage that can be done by negative?
This is called client relationship management. Right. You put a client experience strategy, and you make sure to satisfy your customer. You make sure to follow up on your customer, and you make sure that you deal with the problem before that the clients go online and will complain about the brand. You can't do anything if tomorrow someone wants to complain about the brand, but what is sure is that the brands that are successful today are the ones that understand the clients, follow up with their clients, and accompany their clients. Don't get me wrong, it's like in a relationship. You are building up trust, and as well you're building up long-term hand-to-hand vision. So you have to listen. If you listen, you understand. If you don't listen, you will fail. And this is the brands that didn't listen to the clients are the ones that failed. Okay. And I guess that today listening is the key to save money. Not listening, it will cost a fortune.
I guess that can be applied to the general direction. Everything. Listening to the client, listening to the way that the market is going, listening to how brands need to develop to stay not just current, but to be competitive, especially in the luxury market, where a lot is based on client relationship and history, and a certain lifestyle that you're buying into is fundamental. Louis-Felix, thank you so much for this chat. It was, I know that there probably will be more questions down the line, and possibly later on when it's our interview is being replayed on YouTube. It would be interesting to see what other questions come through. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
For the and that is everything from us this evening at Virtual Face to Face. Thank you to everyone who followed us this evening, and we look forward to seeing you at our next appointment. Thank you.